Joe Rogan was talking a little bit about like this. There's this underlying culture within Hollywood, and it's gotten to the point where if you don't hold the right political views, forget about it. You're never getting a job.
Yes, you're absolutely right. As a matter of fact, my good friend Chris Gore runs Film Threat, has been running articles, and it will be the rest of the year of anonymous WGA writers, Screen Actor Guild writers, who said exactly that. Like what Joe Rogan has said. He was spot on. Is there are, I would say, half of Hollywood at this point is still reasonably has reasonable classic liberals, people on the right, libertarians, people who are just non-political, common sense. I'd say that's still half of Hollywood. They're just scared to death to talk because of their own union. They're not only the union, the corporation. So they have two bosses basically policing their thought. And yeah, if you go off I think you could still be like a Nikki Haley Republican and somewhat survive in Hollywood. Mm-hmm. If you even mention Trump in not the most negative light possible, you're done. You're done. So everybody's just quiet. And that's the worst kind of, and I'll use their term, toxic environment, because you're walking on eggshells. And I'm starting to ask people, like, why do you even want to work there? And guess what they're saying? I don't. We're leaving. Wow. And for lack of a better term, there's a bit of a Hollywood bloodbath going on right now. And and it's because of the strikes. So there's massive layoffs. They're contracting. And they brought this all in themselves because they pissed off the audience and they pissed off their own people. Yeah. Their own people are like, this isn't even, it's supposed to be fun. It's not even fun. It's not even close to fun anymore. And it's sad. We need people to, I wish I could go public with some of the people I've talked to behind the scenes who are like real directors and stuff, who are just normal people who just like, I love film. I want to direct film, but it's so impossible now. And a couple of them I'm talking to are we'll just say POCs. Yeah. And they hate that. They contacted me because they heard in one of my videos. I said, yeah, they're casting directors and producers and not hiring them. And they emailed me to say, exactly, that's it. That's how we felt. And we had a nice conversation. And it's especially when you hear it from their side, right? Yeah. It's really effed up because they're like, we want to earn this. We want to earn this. And it doesn't feel earned now. I'm always going to question it now. So on the human level, it's messed up, but they don't care. They've never cared about Hollywood, the executives. They don't care about your cause. They don't care about any of this. It's all about money. It's all about ESG money. And there's real evidence now that this is happening with the Oscar rules. Yeah. And now within the WGA and the Screen Actors Guild, there's surveys going on that basically you have to check your own boxes. Yeah. And we used to joke about it. It's like, oh, it feels like they're checking boxes for this movie. No, they literally are. There is evidence of it. And now it's not just enough to be a black man or a gay man. You need to be a black gay man, maybe with one leg. Your intersectional score is not high enough if you've only got one or two grievances. I mean, you got to shoot to the top of that grievance pyramid. And it was funny. I was talking with somebody the other day. I was like, yeah, the left doesn't really like the left doesn't have a lot of use for white men until one puts on a dress. And then all of a sudden they're the very top of the grievance pyramid and they get whatever they want. So let me ask you this. So, because you brought up a good point here, and I want to unpack that a little bit. Because whenever we say this is all about money, people generally look at things like, well, wait a second, the box office dollars are in the toilet, right? Like, how can you do this many, bombs in a row and still say this is about the money? But then you mentioned something that's really important. I don't think people properly understand this because, if you're just looking at box office dollars, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, yeah, this is a money losing, thing that they're engaging in right now. But if you look at ESG and you look at BlackRock and you look at those sorts of dollars, which is in the trillions, now it's a different thing. So unpack that a little bit on the difference between, it's still, for some of these guys, it's still about the money. It's just about where they're getting it. Yeah, that's it. ESG is essentially a credit score, right? So environmental, social, governance, and it is run through BlackRock and Vanguard. I've had it in the video. The guy who runs BlackRock said back in 2017, we're going to force behaviors, and that's exactly what they did. I'm forgetting his name, but remember, he had presidential aspirations, and then he went to BlackRock, and he's all, yeah, this is way better than being a president. I have more control.
Yeah.
And he's right.
Yeah.
And God bless Texas for backing out of BlackRock, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah.
So that's how BlackRock, go look at what they own. A huge portion of Netflix, Warner Brothers, I'm not Microsoft. I mean, like, just across the board entertainment, and they're highly influential. So you time that with COVID, you time that with COVID stimulus, you time that with ESG, and all the streaming platforms are released. And this is when what they've been building up for, this is what they were doing. We're going to spam you with content, content that no studio outside of Amazon could have afforded making. There wasn't enough money. It was unsustainable. They were always going to lose money, but they thought they would get it back with subscribers. And they're like, what a great time to social engineer. We can experiment like crazy because you're paying for it. Your retirement plan is paying for it. And by the way, it still is. Still is, especially if you're invested in a company like a Disney. And that's what paid for a lot of this stuff that was just flopping before our eyes for years. We're like, that's where the fan comes in, because, we follow trends, but the normal people can like, hey, there was a time that if a movie flopped or a TV show flopped, it would be canceled. They wouldn't make a sequel, and they wouldn't give it 5 seasons. And they're not doing that anymore. Why? Well, Star Trek Discovery's case, you can't cancel a series with a black female lead, the first non-binary character, the first blah, 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 lesbian this or lesbian that. This is how so the studio wants to cancel it, but they can't.
Yeah.
Because of their own people now. And that they invited in, so I'm not going to not blame them. And they basically let the wolf in the door. It's the woke mind virus. The bankers don't pay attention to anything. They don't watch their own stuff. And these middle management guys are bringing in the DEI executives who are doctoring scripts and engineering. That's how it works. And it's worked for a few years until recently when the money dried up.
Yeah. Well, and that's one thing. The Federal Reserve just came in and announced, we've defeated inflation. So now they can go back to doing all the things that cause inflation. Right. It's like, well, thank you for telling us that you defeated the thing that you caused, and now you're going to go cause a whole hell of a lot more of it. But so that is a good point too, right? Because it's one thing when you look at, and I don't want to go too far down this route of inflationary monetary policy, but when you do have the United States government printing $3 trillion, right? It's not like this is going into the pockets of people working a 9 to 5. It's going directly into banking institutions. It's going into those places that have the best political pull. And then they utilize it. I mean, that's the only way you can explain the stock market going up when the economy is tanking, like when actual production is tanking. It's this fake money that's fueling everything. And the people that get their hands on it first get the most value out of it. And then by the time it trickles down to the rest of us, a dozen eggs is $8. So do you think we're at a point where, because eventually reality kicks in? So is there ever going to be a point where the board at BlackRock or the investors, the major investors in BlackRock, look at their CEO and go like, hey, your little pet project was real cute when all this money was slushing through, but now it's time to actually get returns on it. Does that ever happen, or do you think it just perpetuates itself?
Ooh. BlackRock had to recently disclose within the last month that their ESG stuff had damaged their brand. And Disney had to mention that too, because they have to for quarterly reports.
Yeah.
I'm a dummy. I am a major dummy. I know more. I've learned all this through my YouTube channel. I didn't know any of this before this, but I think it does. Will they change? I think these companies, I think BlackRock and Vanguard and Disney are just too damn big to be nimble. So no, I don't think it changes fast enough to keep up with the clients, the audience, the paying customer out there whose tastes are already changing. We're on the precipice. Things need to change, or the institutions fall. They start falling because people are losing faith in them. You know, I just talk about it in pop culture. I think the institution of Hollywood has had its better days. We're past peak Hollywood, peak woke Hollywood, peak all of it. It's in decline. It's not even the most lucrative form of entertainment. Gaming dwarfs it. If you combine sports without apparel, I think gaming is bigger in sports if you don't add apparel and merchandising, which is insane. And then take music and Hollywood and combine them, and gaming still beats them by $100 million. So like tastes are changing, entertainment is changing, and then you go to the serious stuff, like our real institutions, like the judicial. People are losing faith in that. But this is where it all comes together. Is the activist comes in to entertainment, say they come into Star Wars, they either take it over or destroy it. Either way, they win.